Hello guys, I'm back. My name is Jefferson Costa. I'm a chemical process engineer with expertise in plant design. And today I'm here with the Vijay Sarat. He is and give me license to do that, to say that Vijay, he is the legend of LinkedIn. And if you are a chemical process engineer and you didn't know him, you are losing a lot of free content and very good content. And Vijay, before I start doing questions to you, thanks a lot for accepting my invitation. You were very kind. Since the beginning, you were the first one that I invited, and when you accepted that, that encouraged me to invite other persons. And since then, we are almost 2 months doing live sessions weekly. And
Yeah.
okay, feel free to say something about you, and let's start the live session.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for having invited me, and for all the people on LinkedIn who've been following me, religiously. Thank you very much, and hello to all. So that's me. I'm the guy who keeps punching in all those cheeky comments from time to time on LinkedIn, and I'm quite happy to participate in this live session. So about me, well, I come from a city called Chennai. It used to be called Madras in the southern part of India. I'm a postgraduate in chemical engineering. I also have a chartered engineer status from IChemE UK, and I finished my post graduation in 2006, and if I have to really explain my journey from since college, it's been mostly just upstream oil and gas. It was always and mostly design work, sometimes field visits, but otherwise I'm mostly a design engineer. So in case you guys have any questions to ask me, please go ahead.
Okay.
You can we can sort of if you'd like something regarding how to make your transition from an academic standpoint to the industrial side, no problem. I can answer the questions. So just shoot your questions.
Okay, I will start, but before starting, let me share with you that we have people from India with us, and I always have people from India. That's very nice. And but we have people also from Ireland, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia. All of them knows you, and we'll have good content with you right today. And this live session is a little bit different. In the previous one, I get the model about the technical way of things, chemical engineering. But I follow your work in LinkedIn, and I have seen that you have very critical point of view how the chemical engineer should prepare himself or herself to be a real process engineer. That's why I choose this topic, and fortunately you accepted the challenge. So my first question to hit up this live session is, how did you get your first job? How was the transition, and how did you prepare yourself to get your first job as a chemical process engineer?
Okay, so the thing is that I started my career actually as with CFD. I was doing CFD work on gas turbine ventilation. So the thesis work that I did back in college was something to do with jet mixing of industrial jet mixing. So instead of using the impeller, you just use a jet mixer to do that. So I managed to publish a paper, and then we had these campus interviews. Now, the thing is, if you're talking about transition, what I did was I focused on things that the industry wanted. I even wrote a comment on LinkedIn where I had a classmate, actually in undergraduation, where the guy was working on something like hydrogen from algae. But seriously, how many people are going to invest in something like that, algae? And I mean, they're very good research topics. But if you were to join an industry, because there aren't many operating companies, but if you're going to talk about EPCs, engineering, procurement, and construction companies, nobody got the time for hydrogen from algae or some other fancy topic like that. So what do? You start focusing on how to make a process flow diagram. You got to focus on how to prepare a heat and material balance. You have to know how to, the simple stuff like mole fraction, ppm to 8%. How do you estimate the duty for a pump? How do you estimate the I don't know, heat exchanger? A simple Q is equal to MCP delta T. So the point was I focused on whatever I was learning back in college. And let's say if I join the industry, do I have what it takes to, meet the industry requirements? So it was the training that I gave myself consciously was around these basic stuff. So the transition that you're talking about is, because the interviews also matter. What happens is that the interviewer would ask me questions related to, for example, he would just show you a drawing, it has a vessel, a pressure control valve, a liquid control valve, and he says, let's say the liquid drain valve at the bottom fails and the level is increasing. What would you do to stop it? I mean, the answer is, of course, you just shut down the feed. These are simple questions. Now, this is the standard I was expecting when I was applying for interviews. So the transition for me was nothing but focusing on what I learned in the academia, and trying to meet that in the industry. So whatever you've learned, like I've said, process calculations, heat and material balance, let's say heat exchanger design, you got to figure out how to use that in the industry. And those are the kind of questions that I answered in the interview. So that's how I got a break. My first company was General Electric. The interviewer asked me a simple question. Do you know what we do? I said, you make turbo machinery. What kind of turbo machinery? Gas turbines, for example. She said, do you know what kind of, what thermodynamic principle is applicable for a gas turbine? I thought about it. I said, Brayton cycle. And she said, yes. I mean, there was a close call, but the point is she asked me a question. So you have to understand, you've learned Brayton cycle in the academia. When it comes to application, where do you use it? Gas turbine. If someone talks to you about Carnot cycle, where do you use it? Refrigeration cycle, in the refrigeration industry. So it's about how to connect the academia with the industry. If you can prepare for that, I'm sure anybody can ace an interview.
Oh, Vijay, you said that you consciously, you had the conscience that you were preparing yourself to working with the industry. Yeah. But how did you get the references? Because we see in LinkedIn, and I receive a lot of questions that people don't know how to start. How did you? Who said to you what you should study, or you did the research by yourself? How it was?
Look, I mean, you see, I come from a family of engineers. My father is a mechanical engineer. My grandfather is a mechanical engineer. My grandfather has 4 brothers, 3 engineers, 1 doctor. My dad's brother is an engineer. My dad's cousins are engineers. So, and my grandfather also worked for Shell. He also worked for a company called Parry and Company. And then he started his own lube oil manufacturing unit. His elder brother was, he along with his other younger brother, they started an industrial furnace manufacturing company. So I had some sort of an idea of what this industry is all about, because I used to visit my grandfather's factory sometimes when I was a small kid. So I had an idea as to what I should be getting into. Now, I don't expect everybody to have that kind of exposure. But the fact is that people are studying chemical engineering. Today, you've got the internet, you've got YouTube, you've got videos of companies are putting videos of their facility. Like if you look at a simple air separation unit, there are companies out there who show their facilities and what people do over there. Let's say life in so-and-so company. So you got an exposure there. You're able to see that. And You've got umpteen dozen videos there on YouTube saying, what does a process engineer do? So the question really is that one has to have interest in when they venture into a subject like this. If they're just going to study, take up the subject for the sake of it, well, the software industry is always available. They can go there.
Yeah.
But when you said, how do I get a reference? The reference is that you got to talk to people. If you're studying chemical engineering, if you're on LinkedIn, you should try to connect to people trying to say, this is my understanding of chemical engineering. Or you have to be bold enough to say, actually, I'm studying chemical engineering, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this. Even if you say that, at least if not everybody, somebody will at least will try to give you an idea. So talk to people. You've got YouTube, you've got so many resources on the internet. But at the end of the day, you have to have the interest to get into this industry. If you're going to be like, everybody is going for data science, so I'll rush over there. People are going for startups, I'll rush over there. Or somebody says, he's going to America to do an MBA and then join into investment banking, forget it. It doesn't work like that. You got to consciously try to understand what the industry is, and there are resources. And you also have people to talk to. It's as simple as that.
Vijay, as we had three participants in the meeting, I received a warning from the Zoom that it will end in 10 minutes. So what I will do, I will close and I will open again the same link, okay? So we can start from where we stop. Sorry for that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay?
No problem.
2 minutes, I will close and I will return.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, we were doing some tests to verify the camera and the microphone. So Vijay needed to change his computer because he was not able to link the webcam. So we started doing the Zoom meeting with 3 people, and we have a limitation related to that because it's only 40 minutes for free. So I shut down the previous meeting, but I returned with the same meeting, and the Vijay will return in a few minutes. And I have a list of questions for him here with me, but you can do your questions in the chat, and if I have the opportunity, I will address the question for him, okay? So sorry for this. Sorry for this. Sorry for this, but it happens, and as you know, I'm not a YouTuber, so this kind of things happen, okay? It's very nice to see that we have people from, oh, Vijay, it's already returning. And it is very nice to see people all out from the world. So we have people from Pakistan, we have people from Brazil, from Nigeria, and that's very nice. Can you hear me, Vijay? I need you to disconnect the other one, okay?
Yeah. I've disconnected. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see.
Can you hear me?
Yes. So we have 40 minutes again.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was about to do the next question, and just to let you know, we have also people from Brazil, Nigeria, and a lot of people here. And straight to the point, what it takes to be a chemical process engineer, that is the main subject of this live session.
Very simple, fundamentals, process engineering fundamentals. Like I said before, let's say you, let me put it this way. You go to college, you study chemical engineering, you've learned all these concepts, but if you don't know how to apply them, then there's nothing you can do. But when I say you have to know your fundamentals, you have to have them at your fingertips. How do you calculate mole fraction? You can't open HYSYS and say, okay, this is the mole fraction. You can't, if you have to understand a phase envelope, for example. Otherwise, you will not, because you have to know what is bubble point, dew point, at least to understand a phase envelope. You have to know your fundamentals in and out. If someone says what is condensation, you have to know. If someone says what is Joule-Thomson effect, you have to know. So you have to become a good chemical process engineer. The answer is simple: know your fundamentals well. You also have to what actually happens is that when people join an industry, they expect to do some super duper stuff, like we want to design the entire refinery. So we want to do heat and material balance. We want to design the equipment. We want to make the P&IDs. We want to prepare a QRA report. We want to prepare, I don't know, they want to climb Mount Everest on day one. That is not possible. To be a good process engineer, you have to make a beginning with some of the simple things. You join a company, start learning how to do a line list. You have to learn how to prepare an equipment list. You have to start with smaller things like how to size a control valve, how to size a pump, how do you
oh no,
where to put the PSV. These are the kind of things that one has to be good at. So to be a good process engineer, you have to know your fundamentals. And the second thing is economics, plant economics. Oh, it says your internet. Oh, yeah. You have to know plant economics, because no matter what you design, if it is going to be so expensive, I mean, what's the point in doing that? I mean, it's like a distillation column. You can go on adding any number of trays you want to get almost 99.999% purity. But beyond the point, just for that 0.01%, if you have to spend $1 million more, it's just a waste of time. So you need to understand how does engineering and plant economics go hand in hand with each other. So in short, fundamentals, knowing how to apply them to a given situation, and knowing how to work out the plant economics. If you can do these three things, I'm sure the rest will take care of itself.
There are a lot of operating units available in the industry, and I have seen that sometimes the students are too much worried about doing calculation for reactors, for instance. And in my training program, I tell to them that first they should focus on pipe sizing or piping system, rotating equipment, including pumps and compressors, and also heat exchanging. What do you think? If someone should start with Do
No.
you have some preference or recommendations?
So if I were to really get a guy, let's just say he's out of college, and if I have to make him billable, I'll do exactly whatever you've said. Start with line sizing, size a control valve, size a heat exchanger, size a pump. And then, because these are the building blocks, and once you get these building blocks right, what you do is you start assembling all of it together. So you have a pump system, it has a control valve, you have to know how to size an orifice, you have to know the duty of the pump, what size of a motor do you need for that, is it a single phase or three-phase motor, and talk about static head calculations, is the NPS set sufficient or not. Then you also have to understand how to read the pump curves, and then because when you get all these individual building blocks right and you put all of them together, then that's how you get a system that is working. And then you move to the PFD, process flow diagram, and then you make a P&ID, and then you make a line list, and then you make a control valve list, and then you make a PSV list, and then you make an equipment list. What are the sizes? And I'm telling you, these are the things that anybody would do in the first 3 to 5 years of their career. If people are going to say, hey, I just joined the company, I want to sort of design the hydrocracking. I mean, do you even know what is hydrocracking? The guys say, I mean, it's like they want to look like the guys in Discovery Channel. Like some of those engineers who work for 25, 30 years building a structure like that, an offshore structure, and they look cool on Discovery Channel. These guys want to do it on day one. That's not possible. This is not computer science. 6 months C, 6 months C++, 6 months Java, another 6 months, I don't know, whatever is the latest software, Python, or whatever it is, or ERP or something like that. And in probably 3-4 years, they can have a resume which says, I know 10 programming languages, I know, no, it doesn't work. This is not the kind of industry that you can conquer in, just 1 or 2 years. It's impossible. Chemical engineering is one of the toughest subjects. It takes almost a lifetime to master at least probably 1/3 of it if you're really lucky, but it's simply too vast. So I agree with you that the right way to do it is starting with the basic building blocks that you've mentioned, line sizing, valve sizing, preparing a line list, P&IDs. These are the kind of things that people should do. And if I may add, a good way of progressing the moment you join is to focus on utilities, instrument air system, fuel gas system. You have fire water system. These are very simpler ones. Everybody wants to do the main plant, but nobody wants to do the utilities.
Yes.
You don't have instrument air, nothing works over there. Nothing is going to work anyway.
Yes.
So people have to focus on utilities. Rarely do people spend time on that.
Continuing in this subject, how do you see, how is your point of view about the young engineers that is left in the graduation, it is going to the job market? Let's start with the discussions. I want your more sincere point of view.
I'll give you a sincere answer, but I'm worried if viewers are going to send you messages saying, this guy, Vijay, is like, he's a very arrogant guy, you're going to say. But if I'm going to say something, it's going to be, it's things as they are. What I think, people are getting lazier by the day. The moment they come out of college, they want to, they want to become CEO by evening. That's not the way it works. It's like everybody is in a hurry to learn. You can't learn the subject overnight. It's like I said, you start with utilities. It's small. It's an instrument air system. What do you have? You have an air filter. You have an air compressor. You have a gas cooler, an air cooler, and then you have desiccants to correct the dew point, and then it's for export. You'll have a couple of valves, pressure. You'll have some instrumentation there, and then you have to estimate how much should be the instrument air capacity. These are the kind of things that people should start with. But when people join, they have very high expectations. That's why people tend to really struggle sort of getting into the industry. If It's the second thing is that people have a tendency to think that what you learn in the academia has nothing to do with the industry. But why come to that conclusion? A lot of stuff that I write on LinkedIn is stuff that I learned in academia. If I have to take uh, gas compressor calculations, it's the same thing that you learn back in college. How to calculate the head, how do you calculate the discharge temperature. The same thing that I use in the industry. You just have to know how to apply that. So a lot of guys who come from the industry, they have too much expectations. They are in a hurry to learn. But so this is not a subject, like I said, it's not like computer science or, okay, you make a program, you write an app or something. It doesn't work like that. You have to understand your concepts. That's the way to progress. If I have to really give some good advice to graduates, please do not be in a hurry. Please take some time to prepare yourself. Because one of the problems that what happens is that when you're not good with your fundamentals and you say you want to grow in your career, and one day when you become a manager, if you don't know anything in the subject, you will look like your subordinates will have no respect for you. Then what happens is you just become a manager for namesake. Did the new hire come? Did he fill his time sheet? Did he get his lunch tokens? Did he get his laptop? These are not the kind of things that an engineering manager should be doing. If you want to have a certain, if you say that you have achieved something as an engineering manager, it starts from the day you left college and you joined the industry, and some of the points that I've said, on utilities and building, the basic building blocks. This is how you should do. And the third thing is that when graduates join in the industry, they're waiting to run away for an MBA or an MS like that. I don't understand why. They're there just for those 2 or 3 years to get some work experience. Take the work experience, say Tata, and then they just run away. That's what people are doing actually. They want a job, not because they want to be practicing engineers. They just want it for work experience. And let's say you got into one of those big multinational companies. It's actually much easier to get yourself an MBA, an admission for an MBA or an MS abroad. So those 2 or 3 years, I don't know what they're really doing. It's like they've joined the company by giving themselves an expiry date when they're going to leave the company. That's what people are doing when they, the moment they enter into the job market. That's not something to appreciate really. If you join the industry, stay there. You want to go and study, go.
Very nice. Very nice. And let me. Sometimes I receive a question in the following weeks, the previous weeks, and the guy had the opportunity to choose between upstream and downstream department. And I have some question here talking about what your point of view about the EPC companies and the future of the EPCs and something like that. In my point of view, I think that if you know how a pump works, you can work in a lot of places. It doesn't matter if it's upstream, downstream. Of course, there are particularities, but as you said, if you know the fundamentals, you are free to choose which area you can work. Do you agree about that, or the person should? I want to work with downstream. I will be really focused on downstream and only fundamentals related to that. What do you think about this?
Okay, I'm going to say yes and no. I mean, you see, when you're younger, let's say 1 or 2 years within the company. Okay, let's say you've come out of college, you got yourself a job in the EPC industry. Well, in the EPC industry, you are expected to know, because they can cater to upstream or downstream or even midstream. But EPC guys don't do process licensing, for example. EPC guys, because they're just contractors. Now, if you are in the EPC industry, the learning curve is much faster, in my experience. related to the point on should I can you join upstream and then change to downstream? My question is really where are you going? If a person wants to do upstream, I want to do downstream. I want to do a little bit of this. I want to do a little bit of that. I mean, what is it that the guy is trying to achieve? If you want to enter into something, I'm an upstream guy and I probably will be an upstream forever. I mean, at least till the end of my career. The question you have to ask yourself is if I'm an upstream guy and if I move to downstream, what is it that I'm going to get? I don't see anything other than maybe a difference in pay, or maybe you're just exposed to some new technology. Let's say as an upstream guy, I'm just bothered about gas oil separation facility, or H2S thermal, or let's say you have an NGL extraction unit. But then if I move to downstream and I go to something like an FCC, fluidized catalytic cracker. I mean, okay, maybe you might enjoy that for a couple of months because the method is the same. You do a heat and material balance, you draw a P and ID, you size the equipment, the same PSV calculations are the same. But then the chemistry that is there in it for an FCC, you can't have that complexity in upstream. For a person like me, my philosophy is that once you get into something, stick to that. Unless your stars have decided you have to change, okay, that's a different thing. But let's say you joined your first job with a process like me. On, I don't know, let's say someone who's good at, someone who's providing you solutions with air separation units, stick to that. Because should I start with upstream? Can I move to downstream? And because the moment you join a company, let's say for the first 6 or 7 years, you have some freedom to experiment. But then if you want to grow up through your career, if you're going to frequently keep changing topics, where are you currently going? If you want to be a project manager in the upstream oil and gas industry, stick to proper upstream oil and gas engineering, at least for 15 years. Do only upstream oil and gas. You say, I'll do this and then I go and I'll work for a fertilizer industry. After working in a fertilizer industry, I want to go and work in some paper and pulp technology. No, this is not the way to do it. So the question is, where do you want to go? If you say, I want to be a project manager or I want to eventually go on to hold an executive position like the VP of some gas department or something like that, for a gas plant, or let's say you're in a production unit, you want to become the production in charge. What you start, you have to stick to that. You can't keep changing what do you call your line. That's my opinion, honestly.
Let's proceed here. We are constant doing content in LinkedIn, so we are very active there, and we have seen there a lot of people dropping certificates in LinkedIn, and maybe because of the COVID virus also and the pandemic, the increasing of training programs offering it's increased a lot. So, in your point of view, which kind of course fresh graduate should consider to understand plant design or to work as a chemical process engineer?
Any course that teaches you fundamentals, please do go on. Now, suppose let's say someone advertises saying flare net training for flare design, and they say, okay, 3 hours training and so many dollars and like that. The right thing to do is ask for the syllabus. What are they trying to do? If it's going to be, we will teach you how to use FlareNet or any other software like that, I don't think you're really getting anything. Because if you take a flare system, are they teaching you like what happens if the Mach number is not respected in the flare header? Or did he tell you what happens if the seal pot fails? Or did he tell if there is an air ingress through the flare temper? Air and hydrocarbon cannot mix at all. Or let's say the flare knockout drum, there isn't enough separation. You have liquid enfriement, and there's liquid also coming along with the gas and traveling to the flare. Do they explain these things in a training session? If people, not just on LinkedIn, but over the internet, are offering training sessions, And if they are going to offer you only software training, you're just wasting your money because you can be really good in Flare. And I come and say, why is it that at the end of it, if you have a guy who knows how to use FlareNet, and when he's working for a brownfield development, he adds a couple of more pressure safety valves, and you add up the relief rate of all those relief valves, and if it's more than the flare capacity, I mean, what use is FlareNet to you? If the flare capacity is like 100 million standard cubic feet of gas a day, and the flare capacity is 150, the flare cannot naturally handle that. But will FlareNet tell you that? It won't tell you that. You need to know how to interpret the results. If you want to understand how to interpret the results, you have to know how a plant works in the first place. Will training programs tell you how a plant actually works? Do they tell what happens when the signal from a control valve fails, when it goes to the DC and it fails? Do they tell you what happens? Let's say there is valve chattering. The PSV is like oversight, so the valve is constantly chattering. Do you know what kind of damage happens to that? Do they show you what kind of how it has to be replaced? These are the questions that they should be doing. So real training is about talking about how a plant works. Real training is about how to get your fundamental calculation. And at the end of it, when you try to show them how to do it with the software, that's a different matter. But we live in a world now where everybody wants to make money, so people do all sorts of things. I've also been vocal on LinkedIn about and you can't all these 1 hour, 3 hour training sessions are like you pass some gas and say you ask the key, please give me nitro. That's not the way it works. Please don't waste your time with certifications or over the internet. If you want to learn, you can learn all by yourself. The internet has all the resources that you need.
I agree with you. In fact, it's not strictly necessary to take any course, because there are a lot of information available in the internet. You have free content from Vijay, from me, and I like to emphasize, I have some videos in YouTube talking about the Aspen High Seas, that you must understand the results, because you can have any kind of results there. And as you said, if the people know the fundamentals, they will understand if the tool is giving him the correct answer, right? And the software is just to faster your job. It's not will increase your knowledge, right? Yeah. But supposing that someone decided that they need to have a course to keep growing his knowledge, which kind of precautions he or she should look for to not get the wrong mentor or teacher or institution or something like that? What do you think?
Well, ask for the syllabus. If someone says, I'll give you training, ask for the syllabus. What does your syllabus have? That's the way to judge a training course. If there are training courses which say natural gas fundamentals, okay, you go for the course, and the guy says open HYSYS, put a cooler here, put a distillation column here. That's not a training course at all. Real training course is where instructors give you some sample material. Instructors tell you what the syllabus is all about. Instructors, they at least give you a peek preview of what the course is all about. But I'll tell you why people are so crazy about certifications. One, they want to put that on your resume. But we also have to blame recruiters to a large extent, because what recruiters do is they have the software. So if someone says expertise in Olga, what they do is they type Olga and whatever software or whatever it is, or even on LinkedIn, it shows all the resumes which have Olga written on that. Now, I mean, so what they're doing is they're basically trying to put keywords into their resume, and to back their keywords, they're trying to get certificates. But if you catch the fellow and make him sit down and start asking him questions, he won't know anything at all. Now, instructors are also partly responsible because let's say there was no software. I'm telling you, most of these instructors would not exist. Without the software, most engineers can't do anything. It's like I take away the calculator from you, and I give you, let's say, 215 to 777. I say, and I ask you to do a calculation. If you don't know how to multiply, you're just going to stare at me. But if I give you a calculator, you make the calculation, say, and the number is so and so. This is what is exactly happening. Instructors are taking advantage of students using softwares. What kind of precautions should students also take is to check how knowledgeable the instructor is. If the instructor knows only software knowledge, he's useless. Because the guy also who's going to him is wasting his money and he wouldn't know anything. So ask for the syllabus. Ask for, because real instructors, what they do is they give you training material in return. Because when you finish the course, you need physical material. You look at my LinkedIn documents. I sit and write everything, at least like some fundamentals, what it is, some general notes, and then I try to work out the calculations, then I show you some results. And then very recently I put some, there were also in the past, I put some software results to check what the hand calculations on the softwares are showing. How should I check if the software is right or not? That's the kind of training, that's how you judge whether a course is worth it or not, at least in this line of work. Otherwise, it's going to be AutoCAD. Because AutoCAD is the only course where you don't need I think if you can read and write, it is good enough. If you can read and write, it is good enough, and you just have to keep drawing. Those kind of training programs, there are no problems at all. You can go to anybody. But if you want real process engineering, they can't be software-oriented trainings at all. No chance. That's why on LinkedIn I've been very vocal about it. You can't. I don't click like on such posts at all.
I agree with you. And there are free, as we mentioned before, there are free options in the internet in how the student or the fresh graduate can use effectively this kind of free content. Do you have an opinion about that?
See, look, you find something in front of you that is for free, you just take it and use it. The key word is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes a man perfect. But people are lazy. They say they want to start. They will sincerely download the material from the internet. They will prepare a folder, they'll put a fancy name. Sometimes people even take a printout. But when it comes to start working on it, nobody wants to do it. I was giving an example some time back to someone where the guy is like, he seems to be having some problems trying to. He has all the material that he needs. All he has to do is start working on it. But I ask you, when I say you, I mean to whoever is watching this. Let's say you wanted to buy a mobile phone. Don't you put the effort to go into the internet, search for the specification, search for how much RAM it has, what is the processor capacity, what kind of features does it have? Does it have dual SIM, quad cam, or does it have OLED display? And then you check out what is the price, you check out where is it available, what is the delivery time. Nobody tells you anything, but when it comes to buying a mobile phone, don't people take the interest to go and search and do all their homework to buy the mobile phone? Same way, what is wrong with picking up the subject? If the question is how to use them effectively, how do you use them effectively? Start using it. Somebody buys you a bicycle, and if you don't use it, the bicycle will get rusted. The same way, if you're given free material, no charges, and I can tell you stuff that the industry wants. The only thing that is left for you, for anyone, is to get there and start working on it. Even if you found yourself an instructor, like in school, some people have tuition masters. They go to tuition, some extra tuition, and the tuition teacher, he tells you this is how you have to solve the problem. He can show you 2 examples, 3 examples, maybe okay, 5 examples. But it's the student's job to get back home and they put the effort to practice. But it is most people don't, they don't put the effort. They're not motivated enough. That I can't do anything. The motivation has to come from within anybody. When the guy has the interest to go buy the latest iPhone, Apple iPhone, checking out the specifications, he goes to the Apple iStore, he stays there for like, I don't know how many hours, God knows where he's getting the money from, and he spends a fortune buying the iPhone and he takes good care of it. What is wrong with your own line of work? You say chemical engineering, you've got resources. Somebody says, how do I design a heat exchanger? You have tons of material out there how to do it. I think this morning I was tagged in one of the posts where someone wrote about how to design a heat exchanger based on TMA standards. All that someone has to do is download the document, and start working them out. And you do 1 or maybe 2 calculations, it gets into your head. So the more you keep practicing, after a point, learning becomes natural. In the beginning, it will be difficult. I'm not saying no to that. But like the way you lift weight, the first few seconds it will be very hard to lift. But once you reach a stage, it becomes very easy to lift lift the dumbbells. So people have to put effort. Like I said before, practice, practice, practice.
Vijay, I received another warning from the Zoom, and I will need to shut down and return again. But please, just return with this one with the webcam, because when we have 3 participants, I have a limit on time. That's why I have a limit on time. Okay, sorry for that.
Okay. No problem. Just take your time. Okay. So I'm not going to touch anything. You disconnect.
Yeah,
then I will connect.
Yes, I will close. And when I close, it will close to everyone, and you may return only with this that you are talking to me. Okay, the other computer, forget about that.
Yeah, sure, okay. No problem.
See you soon in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Hello, Vijay. Can you hear me? You need to activate the microphone. If you want to, you can.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay. It was faster than the last time, right? Practicing.
Yeah, I never used Zoom before, so this is my first time actually.
Okay. Let me see the people. It's always very worried about the future here. And in the chat, I have some questions. What will be the future of the chemical engineering? And about the digitalization, what will be the future of the chemical engineer? And how, as we are very effective people in LinkedIn, how people can use LinkedIn to increase the chance of getting a job in there?
So I've actually written a post about this. Look, the moment you are on LinkedIn, you have to understand back then, a lot of people never had an opportunity to present themselves to the world. You have social media today and you have LinkedIn. What LinkedIn does is that it gives you an opportunity to showcase yourself to the public. So what do? You write something about yourself, about your topic. So, for example, if you know something about pump calculations, try to work it out and post it on LinkedIn, because the moment you do that, you have a large crowd looking at you. And when you're consistent with writing about these things. I mean, look, pump calculations and line sizing. There are a dime a dozen people out there. But let's say you're able to design an LNG tank. It's a cryogenic tank. Not many people can do that. I put an article on that. I put an article on how do you design an LNG cryogenic tank. I'm telling you, people will send you private messages saying, "Are you interested in this job?" The trouble is that people think that if I go on LinkedIn, like, and post my resume and say, I lost my job, I'm so sorry, please come and give me a job, like some socialist guy, begging for a job, or like one of those guys on the highway holding a placard saying, "Will work for food." These things are not going to work. Just because you have a resume and you post it on LinkedIn, and let's say 1,000 people liked it, does not necessarily give you anything. Because when you post your resume on LinkedIn and you're asking for a job, the recruiters are not obliged to even what do you call consider you. They have so many people out there who are sending them resumes. What's so special about you? Why should I listen to you? That's what people are going to ask. But when you write a document, making it where you explain your understanding of the subject, how is it applied in the industry, picking up topics that not many people are out there. For example, like I said, designing an LNG cryogenic tank, and then I put up a paper on costing. How do you? So let's say you want to do concept engineering. You have to know how to work out the economics. What's the net present value? You have to know how much is the payback period. What is the internal rate of return? When you pick up these topics, which are more high-end topics, you have so many people here who can do the same old EPC kind of stuff, line sizing, line list, this, that, I know. But you have very few people here who can do flow assurance. I'm not talking about taking the software and doing something like that. Flow assurance. I mean, for example, can you do um, let's say can you predict at what temperature hydrates are formed? Can you predict at what temperature waxes are formed? Can you do a multi-phase fluid characterization? Can you can you do dynamic simulation for a gas compression system? Can you do like I said, costing also, for example? When you do some of these high-end kind of work, and you are showing physically how the calculations are done, how the results are arrived at, what is happening is, like, you're the person, you're speaking to the whole world, saying that you have this talent. Then what will happen is that recruiters will themselves come to you.
I
There's a
agree with
difference
you. I,
there's a difference between when you go ask someone and saying, I want this or that, and there's a difference when someone comes to you and says, "I want to give you this, will you please take it?" That's the way it should be. When people come to you, it's a different treatment. When you go asking people for something, it's not the same as being asked. So project yourself. Talk about your work, how you're effectively putting your knowledge to practice. Training is one way of showing, this is what I know. You also do that. Then yes, that's the way you should be using LinkedIn to project your knowledge level. You have to give people a chance to try it before they buy.
I totally agree with you, and I would like to add some points. The first thing is that people wants results for yesterday, right? And don't
Yeah,
expect that kind of results.
yeah,
You you need to be consistently, as Vijay said, And
Yeah.
and to do that, you need to have a very strong mindset. You have to have a very strong purpose, in my point of view. Okay, Vijay,
Yeah.
because it's not easy develop expose your knowledge in the internet, because people are afraid of judgment. And but if you forget about that and share what you know, and you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
need to do that every day, but at least one per week, you will have
One
a
per
lot
week.
of subjects to talk, and people will be always watching you what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I totally agree with
I think
you.
one, I think one per week, or let's say once in 10 days is good enough. Because if someone is looking for a job, what are they going to do sitting at home? Okay, if he's got wife and kids and somebody has to take care of the house, let's say, I mean, how long will you keep taking care of the house? Beyond the point, you can, you have free time. You can sit, start working out something, and then publish it on LinkedIn. I mean, now LinkedIn is so big. You got so many people out there who are willing to comment, who are willing to share what they know. So I don't see any way. I don't see, if someone says I don't have any time. I mean, you got no job, and how can you say you have no time? What else are you doing? Get down there and start
Yes.
writing about what you know.
And what people definitely or absolutely should not do in LinkedIn, in your point of view.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, what people should not do.
Yeah, yes. Never do this. Please never do this.
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, just don't abuse anyone just like that. I mean, unless someone comes and tries to abuse you, then you give it back. No problem. But LinkedIn is a professional platform, in the sense you're trying to search for a job. You're trying to build a network. But if you start sharing puppy dog videos, cute puppy videos, you go on writing about political stuff from morning till evening. If you go on, uh, let's say, uh, when you share your details about your resume, please be honest. Uh, because there is one, I did an interview a long time back, but this one it stands apart. It's like you have a guy who has 13 years of experience in a well-known automation company. He's a manager, and he had, I think, about 15 people working under him. When he sent the resume, and my boss asked me, because we were looking for a person who can fill up the position of a dynamic simulation engineer. My boss said, okay, you look into it. So okay, you have his whatever, was that mission statement or whatever, and then you have his education, and then he says his work history, and then he talks about his work. When I had a good look at that resume, what happened was, this guy, he opened HISES, he took the names of all the tutorials, and silently put some random project name over there. Now, the moment I saw it, I knew there is something going wrong here. So at the time of the interview, I started off asking him questions on how do you tune a controller. The guy didn't know a thing. It finally came down to a point where the guy frankly said, I don't know. But you see, you have to maintain some dignity. So I said, we'll get back to you. And I told my boss, look, this guy is just faking it. What you should never ever do is fake your credentials. If you have really worked on a project, talk about it. If you have not worked on the project, don't write about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you, because I think I think you know very well. So recently there was this guy with, I mean, I was a little brutal when I wrote that post, saying you can't call yourself a PID expert. You can't call yourself. I mean, I was talking. It was in a conversation somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So what you write in your title should match with what you do.
And
If you say,
let me ask you, that is something that I constantly receive. I'm not saying that it's prohibited, but I don't know any the effectiveness of this. Sharing connection and start and ask for a job. What do you think about that?
Sorry, could you come again, please?
You
The last
receive,
line, I didn't hear it.
yeah, you start connect with someone, he asks for a job. What do you think about that?
I tell them straight away, I'm sorry, boss. Look, if I'm walking down the street, somebody walks up to me and says, "You please give me $1,000, and I'll give it to you in 10 days." Will you give the money? I mean, in Brazil you have what? I mean, Argentinian pesos. In Brazil, what's the currency?
Brazil is real.
Here, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that, but okay, let's say dollars.
Okay,
So someone
dollars.
comes to you and says, "I'll give you, you give me $1,000, I'll give it to you, I'll give it back to you in 10 days." A stranger comes and tells you that. Will you really give him the money? Now, I've had an experience with my own classmate when after I referred him, the way he was doing, I was really worried about what my boss will think about me because I mean, he had a degree from a premier institute, one of the best universities in India. I told my boss, at least he has that degree. But my boss said, "You see, this guy has he's been doing some proposals work in a power plant in these power industries. How do you think he's going to handle oil and gas?" He said. I said, "Okay, he was my classmate. The guy he has a degree from so and so place." And then he was always sincere back in college. He never used to pick up. He used to score well also, so maybe he can do it. But because he requested me, "Please refer me to your company." And when I bought him in, and this guy was terrible as hell, I was worried about losing what my boss will think about me. Now let's say if somebody on LinkedIn sends you a message and saying, "Please give me a job," and all that. Even if I became a very, out of magnanimity, if I decided to give the guy a job, I don't know what he's going to do. Why should I take those chances? In fact, it is very unfair of people to start sending messages to private messages to strangers on LinkedIn, saying, "Sir, please refer me for a job." How am I supposed to know how good the guy is? The guy says, "Okay, I know how to do PSV sizing," he says. I mean, anybody can say, "I have knowledge of PSV sizing," but what is he going to do? I mean, how good is he? You have people with such fantastic LinkedIn profiles, and then you actually start asking them questions. You'll know really, is it worth referring? I mean, I'm really sorry if whoever is listening to this, but people have to be practical. People have to be responsible. If you want someone to refer you, I'm putting these tutorial files on the internet, on LinkedIn. How many guys? I mean, the guy says, "I will do this, I will do that," and finally does nothing. And then I think that's enough. It's the point I'm trying to make is it's really unfair to ask a stranger, "Please give me a job." It's not the way it works. This is not socialism. Okay? Because the moment you ask someone for a position, anywhere, through their references, what is happening is that you are putting the reputation of many people at stake. If that guy screws up, well, my name also, the guy will say, "Vijay, you said that this guy is good and I took him. Look at what he's done. Seriously, don't you have," and I had such experiences. So much where I came to it came to a point where the general manager of the static equipment department said, "You referred a guy. He was my former tech lead actually, and you referred me the guy. In fact, he has no experience in this, but you said that therefore because you recommended, I took him. He has no experience. We gave him 30% pay rise." And the guy finally sends me an email saying, "Thank you very much, but I found a job elsewhere." And that's the kind of experiences that I've had. I'm not going to refer anybody. And if someone sends you a message like that, tell them to get lost. You don't even respond to them. It's very unfair of people to send such messages.
I agree with that. And what I would like to talk to people is that you must be good technically, but you must also be have a good social skills in order to not only make colleagues but friends at the work. But what I have seen, especially in Brazil, I'm not so sure about India. It's a little bit different, but many of the positions are for recommendations. But we recommend because we know the person, right? We
Yeah,
know
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
behaviors, we worked with him already, we go to the field, and we know what is expected from them. And when
Yeah.
someone asks you something that you never saw before, it's to not say impossible, it's very hard to recommend anyone. Okay, guys. So
Yeah.
and what Vijay said before, sharing your knowledge is a way to get recommendations. And
That,
if you are good
yes,
enough,
yes.
people will recommend you because you sharing knowledge, right?
Mm. You see, it also depends on the content of the of what the person is sharing. If you can show that you are able to do something which someone who does with it takes at least 10 years of experience to reach that level. Let's say you on your own were working on it, wrote a nice document with all how it is done, and then you post it on the internet on LinkedIn. There will be comments. There will be senior people are also looking at your documents. If someone wants a job on merit through LinkedIn, you talk about let the guy talk about his work. Work out the. I'm giving tutorials straight away. You try to work on them. The moment you get better, you start working on. You pick up something else and you start writing about it. People have to invest time. If the guy is so lazy to even take up something that is already there and rework it, and the guy says, "You give me recommendation, I will come and work in your company. Please, sir, please, sir." No, it doesn't work like that. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous.
Vijay,
If you have to
why?
recommend someone, recommend people only whom you know for sure, someone with whom you have worked before, and those are the kind of people that you should be hanging around with. Any unsolicited messages, just say no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all the viewers if I've been very honest, brutally honest.
Now, you are here to be sincere, okay? No problem. And
Yeah.
it's very nice because guys, who is following us alive and who will see the records, it is real life. And what Vijay says in LinkedIn and what I says in social media in LinkedIn is what happens in real life. And the some people don't like to share that, but we have
Yeah.
maybe the courage or not, or the craziness to share what we think, right, Vijay?
Yeah.
And let me ask you, why you start sharing your knowledge in LinkedIn?
Well, actually, I did write a post on that, but I'll elaborate on that a bit. So the thing is that for me, LinkedIn was like a place where I can store my stuff. The thing is, you have laptops changing frequently. Sometimes you put something in a hard disk and the hard disk stops working. And then you don't know where you put your information. And every time you want to refer to it, let's say after 5 years, where did I put it? You won't remember. So the easiest way, I thought that LinkedIn was a nice place to store your stuff. So, and then what happened was there was also SlideShare. So I started uploading there also. So it's like a backup. But the moment you put something on LinkedIn, for my own reason, it's not that I put something on LinkedIn, please come and read. It's not like that. But people are reading and people are asking me questions. If I don't answer back, they'll think I'm some kind of big bad Bollywood villain. I didn't want to look like that. So when someone reads the document, they send me a message, I write about it. And then what happened was people used to send me private messages. They used to say, "Do you know anything about this or that?" So I also used to think maybe we should write something about this because it would be it's a good way for me also to remember my what I've learned. So LinkedIn to me started off as a place where I can use it to store my stuff. But then once you store your stuff there, people are coming, opening it and seeing, yeah, what is this? They ask you questions, then you start explaining. So the motivation to write is I would still say is almost 75% just to store my stuff. 25% because you asked me a question. Okay, fine. I'll answer you. I'll answer the question. I got no problems with that. That's my real motivation to write on LinkedIn.
And because of that, people really loves you, and
No, yeah, thank you.
we break all of the records from this live session,
Mm,
and the my
yeah,
YouTube channel is still small, right?
mm,
And
yeah,
we got here 40 persons at the
mm,
same time, and it is a
mm,
record for the YouTube channel, and that's thanks to you,
mm.
and it's
Yeah.
very nice, and as there are a lot of people that likes to have our not mentoring but our suggestions and know what we think, and you gave the
Mm,
opportunity to them to know more about you, and I think that is very
yeah.
nice, very nice of yours, because it's not
Yeah.
easy to spare time to teach people
Mm,
for free. I know
mm,
that.
mm,
And
mm.
but let me ask you something that very particular in my point of view from India.
Yeah.
And some time
Mm,
ago,
mm,
I saw a job position talking about a guy with 6 years of
mm,
experience, and he or she should have
mm,
high grades. And 6 years later, after finishing the graduation, that get my
mm,
attention. And
mm.
have high grades is enough to
Mm.
get a job.
Again, not necessarily, because let's say someone wants to get a job in the call center. People who in the
No,
middle of the
okay,
night,
okay. We are talking
they,
about process engineering. Don't generalize, okay? Chemical process
no,
engineers.
okay, okay, process, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I'll stick to chemical engineering, process engineering, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, if you look, the grades really do matter when, because it's a mindset. Let's say you go to some of the best institutes in the country, let's say in India. So some of the best institutes, what happens is that you have all these companies like Microsoft, Intel, the software companies, they all come to recruit students. But what happens is that the core engineering companies, they come a little later. So the guy who scores a lot of marks, the toppers, they what they do is because the question is not always money. The question is not always it's not a point about money all the time. It's also because they want to do an MBA. If I join this big company, it'll become easier for me to get into that. So what some of these companies do is they set a high CGPA. Now, if you have a class where out of 10 CGPA, let's say everybody is scoring at least 7 or 8 or 9. What they do is they raise the CGPA based on the requirements. But let's say there are only a handful of people with about 9 or 9.5 out of 10, most of them having 6 to 7. Then it becomes easier to decide. If they decide at least I have to take 10 people, they can't have a very high so do your grades matter? It depends on the situation. If you have in this line of work, like for process engineering, what happens is companies, uh, it's not grades alone that matter. They also have their own entrance tests. So when I was in college, I wrote an exam. So we had this company called Larson and Toubro that came. I got through. I wrote a test. I got through. I went for the medicals. Everything happened, and then I told my mom, "Ciao, ciao. I'm going to go to the western part of India to work at Larson and Toubro." My mom, she didn't want me to leave the house. She started crying and she made a big fuss about it. So that was when I made the first mistake of my life, listening to my mother, and I didn't go there. That's just to not to go off track. Your CGPA is not everything. Sometimes companies have their own entrance test to give you a second opportunity to enable you to compensate. So let's say you didn't do well in your exams, you didn't score a good grade, no problem. Some of them give an opportunity to write an entrance exam. And if you get through the entrance exam, they conduct an interview and then you can go through. But then there are also, again, certain companies or some people who just believe that if you didn't have the CGP, if you could not score if you could not stay consistent for 4 years, scoring grades, what can you do in a company? But I don't think that's a very nice way of assessing someone. If you want to pick up someone, give them an entrance exam. They'll get to. So it's really a mixed bag. Some companies think that you must have. Some people think they don't have. In my second company where I work in ENI Cycle, they conduct an all India test. I mean, back then, I don't know how it is right now. Back then, they would give an advertisement saying, come and write this exam. So you have students from all the colleges. If you have, we didn't have grades back then. That time it was how much was your percentage. So if they say if you have so much minimum percent, it is good, just come and write the exam. So when you get to the exam, they use the exam results to choose who can be interviewed, and from that interview, they choose their people. So grades, do they matter? Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Vijay, we are going to the end of this live session, and I saw that Ms. Benatz is here with us live. He
No,
is
oh,
from
yeah. Say hi
Ireland
to
and
me.
very
Hello.
nice. Hi.
Hello.
And let me give you the spoiler for the audience. Next week, she will be with me in the live
Yeah, yeah.
session, and it's very nice to have you and her as the next guest. Very nice. And
Yeah.
we know that you study astrology, and sometimes
Oh,
you give
yeah.
some pieces of that for us. And I have seen one day that you said that it's not possible to change the future or something like that. Okay, you can correct me after the question. And based on that, if the stars tells us what will happen, how we can prepare yourself for a better future.
So, if I have to keep it short and sweet, what astrology teaches you is that the circumstances that you have to face in life are already decided. And those circumstances are based on what you've done in the past, or what we simply say karma. But when those circumstances come, it is in your hands you have the freedom to decide what you need to do if you want to change it. Why? Because human beings are the only species on the planet which have what is called free will. But the problem is people use their ego instead of their free will. And that's why often whatever is written in their horoscope is only what happens. In my own case, I predicted that I will have an accident. So when I'm driving, so what did I do? I just wore a helmet and I took it very religiously. I went to the market, spent money, bought a very high quality helmet. When the time came, I did have a motorcycle accident, not once, 3 times I had. The first time was when I felt on the ground, my head, it just hammered against the floor. If I did not have the helmet, I would have died by now. So astrology, what it says is, it gives you answers to why your life is the way it is. It tells you why your circumstances are different from the other person's circumstances. But when those circumstances come, what you do about it is definitely in your hands, because human beings have what is called free will. And instead of free will, if you resort to taking a decision based on your ego or your emotion, I mean, then it doesn't matter. Then there is nothing anyone can do. If you if you want to prepare yourself for the future, the the fewer, I mean, if you stop having opinions, too many opinions, if you stop having perceptions all the time, if you stop unnecessarily judging people or judging a situation, that is the only way you can get to the future. You have to look at today's. You have to leave the past in the past, present in the present. If you take care of the present, the future takes care of itself. That is astrology in a nutshell. If you if you if you um, if you look too much into the future, also it is useless. If you look only at the present, also it's a problem. So you have to uh, always be conscious about the consequences of your actions. If you're conscious about the consequences of your actions, the future takes care of itself. That's the summary of astrology. My learning,
No, very,
my
very,
understanding.
very nice, very nice. I don't I have a similar thinking. I don't study astrology, but I like to study the about the inner self. It's something related to coaching, something like that. I like
Mm,
to study this, and it's very similar. We need to take
mm,
responsibility for our actions, and
yeah.
if you can prepare yourself first, do
Mm,
that because
mm,
it's not a waste of time, right? And
yeah.
Vijay, the last question is if you have
Yeah.
any final message. It was very, very, it was a pleasure, very, very a pleasure to be with you here. You are a very kind person and you have strong opinions, and I I respect that, and it is very nice because we can help more people with different opinion. If everyone was equal, there was not
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't
improvement,
matter then.
right?
Yeah.
And please let share with us your last message to the people that are with us and that wants to be chemical process engineer, real chemical process engineers.
Well, if I have to have a final message, I mean, thank you all for following me in the first place because I never had an expectation when I was on LinkedIn. Sometimes just people keep, sometimes people just keep following me, and I'm grateful to you for that. With respect to the topic of this discussion, what really makes a chemical process engineer? I'm going to reiterate the same thing. Be good with your fundamentals. Take the time to practice something. Stop putting too much faith into that software. When you put the effort, it's really hard to pick up in the first. But keep practicing, because when you keep practicing, you cross a threshold where learning becomes natural. So I don't see anything more than this to become a good process engineer. And more importantly, keep reading from time to time. You want to spend time on Facebook, fine, nobody's stopping you. But when you take the time, I mean, it's not that you have to. If you say heat exchangers, stick to heat exchangers and try to learn as much as you can. Try to, how do you make a heat exchanger P&ID? How do you do your heat exchanger design calculations? Then after that, let's say if you're talking about centrifugal compressors, API 617, try to spend some time reading that. So how much time you invest into anything, your rewards you will get only from that. If you say, I'm going to study for the physics exam and I want to score 100% in chemistry, that is not going to happen. If you say, I want to browse Facebook every day and I want a promotion in the office, that is not going to happen. If you want to be good at something, you have to pursue it. And these are not things that this is not a subject that you can conquer in one day. My final message is plain and simple: practice, stick to fundamentals, invest your time well. Because as you keep growing older, the mind slows down, the learning curve also comes down. So before you get too old to learn, pick up as many skills as you can. That's
Thanks a lot, Vijay. Thanks a lot. It
it.
was a pleasure again. And guys, we finished this live session, and next
Yeah,
week we have another one. But
yeah.
enjoy the recording. You can see this every time you want in my
Definitely.
YouTube
I'm
channel.
I'm
Okay?
already I'm already seeing a lot of comments here on YouTube. It's 32 comments so far.
Yes, it's
So,
it's it's
oh,
the
it's
record. You break all records.
really no, no.
Bye bye, my
So
friend.
I hope, yeah.
Uh,
I'll see you.
no,
Thanks a lot.
if
Thank you
you
very
if
much
you
for
want
inviting me.
if you want to do you want to talk about something else? No
No,
problem.
no, no,
It's
nothing.
just
No,
because
nothing.
we pass the time, okay? But you are my guest and you have priority
No,
here.
no. I just wanted to thank you once again for having invited me. You've been very kind.
Okay. Feel free
Yeah,
to stop your presentation or your camera in order that I can verify here
yeah,
in
yeah.
YouTube, okay?
Okay. So I say, how do you say bye bye in Brazilian?
Ciao.
Oh, oh, oh. Sorry?
Ciao.
Ciao, also in, okay, ciao. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao,
And
ciao.
okay, yeah.
And
Ciao, ciao.
in Hindi, how is it?
We have 20, I don't know, I think we have more than 26 languages. Which language you're
Ah,
referring
so
to?
forget about that. So see you soon, my friend.
Bye-bye, see you.
Bye bye.
Bye.